online, on the TuneIn app, and on your smart speaker. Play Shock Radio.
This is Shock
News.
Hello and welcome to the Shock News podcast with me, Benny Fiddimore. Today I'm joined by Freddie Beckett and Noah Buckingham-Reed. And on today's podcast we'll be discussing inflation, Salford centenary celebrations, a new upgrade for Piccadilly Gardens, and the Christmas markets are back. So, welcome to the pair of you to the news podcast this week. How are you both doing?
Yeah, good. Busy week and a lot to talk about in the local area and a lot to talk about nationally too. So, yeah, excited to get into it.
And we start with the fact that the ONS have announced today that inflation will remain at 3.8%, and many economists expected a rise due to an increase in food prices. But the Chancellor has said that she is not satisfied with the latest cost of living. The Bank of England targets 2% inflation at all times. So guys, inflation's still much higher than the government and the Bank of England would want it to be. What are your thoughts on this? Is the government doing enough to bring the cost of living down?
Well, I'd say it was definitely one of the main goals they set out, and it's one that they've been pursuing and following since they came into government last year. And Rachel Reeves has been very much at the forefront of this, trying to push this forward, trying to ensure that inflation is part of something within the government that they can control, and that's something which the Conservatives failed to do, and at the worst of times actually let spiral out of control. So the Bank of England are technically in charge of inflation, and the ONS are a mediator on that. But what they can do is control other parts of the economy to bring inflation more in line. Now, this is actually a stabilisation of inflation over the past few months. So, would saying this is a good result would maybe be too much, but to say this is a stabilisation and perhaps a sign that Rachel Reeves is actually making some positive change over the past few months is definitely something you could say.
Yeah, Freddie?
Obviously, with the 2% aim, it's tough to bring it down, but as Noah was saying about the stabilisation of inflation, where it's been at that level now for 3 months, and the main thing is it hasn't gone up. So keeping it at that level, not letting it, obviously the aim is to go down, but where it's at the level, it's stable, it's secure.
And we do know that month on month, the cost of food and non-alcoholic drinks have actually edged down slightly in September. So it's the first fall since May 2024. So technically looking at it on an actual optics, on an actual level where people will feel it, you could say that this is a big result for the government and something they can really point to. It's not a number which they can point to and be particularly proud of or want to promote, but they can point at it and say, this is what the Labour government is doing, this is what they're stabilising, and this is how prices are going down because of it.
It's that nice, little stable line. At least
Well,
it's not going up.
There's no up, and I think if they can stabilise, that is the route to maybe then looking at it, at bringing it down, slowly but surely.
Keeping it secure. And with the budget coming up in the next couple of weeks, do you think that this inflation figure is going to impact some of the decisions that Rachel Reeves may make when she makes that announcement?
And again, just on a political level, to make those changes which she wants to make, she needs the evidence almost of the success of her policy. So her previous policy has been scrutinised because there's been a lack of impact on cost of living, which is something that Labour got elected on, and just general prices decreasing. So what it could mean is that she now has a stable base to point to and say, over the past few months, I've stabilised inflation, and therefore I'm able to bring other things down or tune other things up so we can keep on increasing this and potentially move that stabilisation, like we said, down into a sort of downward spiral.
Well, yeah, with the inflation rate obviously being level, the main thing for people of our age, obviously, is the tuition fee price. Obviously, it's capped right now to a maximum of 9,000.
Is it 300, I think?
535 a year?
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we just need to, obviously for us, it's very important tuition fees stay as cheap as they can. But with the inflation, with any chance of it rising, oh my goodness.
So last year they were set at £9,300, 320, something like that. They've gone up to £9,535 this year, and next year they're going to go up even further. So what impact is this going to have on students? Freddie, do you want to just say, what do you think? Do you think it's a long-term thing, but it is going to impact all of us, isn't it, at some point? Because we're all studying.
We're all studying. At the end of the day, if we're all taking a student loan, we're all going to have to pay it back at some point. So if the prices go up, we're going to have to be paying it back higher rate, we're going to have to be paying it back for longer. So it's a long-term impact, but it will have a long-term effect on how we lives.
Yeah, Noah, do you think that it's quite hard for us as students, the fact that we leave university with so much debt as it is, do you think this sets us up on the back foot when we begin our careers?
Potentially, and I think we see that more as more students are coming in. Inflation was expected to be at 4%. It's
Yeah.
a little bit below that. So Bridget Phillipson said that tuition fees would go up in line with inflation. But I think what we are unaware of is that this actually is not expected to change students' decisions on going to university. So I think that's something which the government can point to. I think it's something which actually most students are not that aware of how that technical debt, but it's a student loan is going to be paid back. So I think the rise is neither here nor there. I'm not sure they think it's a big enough impact to stop students coming in, but will it make it actually harder or tougher in the long term for students? It very much could, and it will. But whether it changes anybody's minds on going to university, and I think that's what they're banking on.
Final question for you both on the topic of inflation and student tuition fees and anything to do with university finances. Do you think that students will be more bothered by the fact that maintenance loans are going to rise in line with inflation than they will that tuition fees are rising? Because do you think students just, when it comes to tuition fees, do we just think that they don't really exist?
Well, I think it's actually quite fair to think that they don't exist. We only pay them as sort of I think the idea that it's a debt or a loan is often a misframing, and people talk about they don't want to get into debt by going to university. But these are actually sort of extra taxes you pay throughout your life and stop paying at a certain point. So their increase doesn't matter much, whereas maintenance loans, we feel it in our bank accounts when they come in, and they actually do make a quite significant impact on the way you live your life, how much you might work at university, the rent you pay, the type of place you stay in. So that actually going up could technically be more attractive for people, and it's something which the government can again point to in terms of we're going to increase this, but it's not stopping people from coming in. In fact, it might help more people come in.
Freddie, what do you think on this?
Well, the tuition fee loan, you never see that money yourself. That's all behind the curtain. But the maintenance loan, you do see. As Noah said, it's in your bank account. You feel that. It really impacts how you go, your weekly shop, your budgeting, your plans. I mean, it's how many pints you can have every week, really. That's the main impact.
That is the main impact.
A big impact.
So yeah, maintenance loans are going to rise in inflation, but tuition fees will do too. That's because inflation is now 3.8%, remaining the same as the last 3 months. Right, moving to a local story then. A word I've been struggling to say. Does someone want to take this headline for me so I don't mess it up again with...
Do you think you've got it now?
I think I can do this. so yeah, I mean, it's the Salford Centenary celebration.
Woo!
Isn't it?
We've got it right.
100
yes.
years of Salford City. What a time to be alive, Benny.
I know, and Salford, it's the city we study in, so I think the best thing to do is give me something you just love about Salford. We are proud to live here. There's that Love Salford sign just outside the Newton building, and you know, I think I've taken photos with it. So what do you love about Salford?
Okay, what I love about Salford, I'd say we have a decent shopping centre over at Quayside, so by the quays. What do I like in there? So you've got Cargo, so if you're ever looking for some food in Salford, I love going to Cargo, maybe after a lecture, and they have a great cinema there too.
Well, there you go.
So I'd say those two are my favourite little parts.
So Quayside's great because it's full of shopping
yes.
outlets, isn't it?
Yes.
So, you know, great place for cheap, smart clothes. Freddie, what's your favourite part of Salford?
Well, I love Media City personally. Media City, the food outlets there, Co-op and the Greggs.
Other brands
are available, but they're there and they're convenient. And Media City obviously is a great place to have your lectures. But we can't forget Peel Park. Obviously, you love your Peel Park runs, Benny, every weekend. But also the Salford Shopping Centre. Honestly, it's a hive of activity there. You never know what you're going to find over there.
You never know who you're going to meet at Salford Precinct.
Well, yeah, on a serious basis, actually, Salford has got some really lovely green spaces, and I think that's something that we need to be proud of, the fact that Peel Park is on our doorstep here at our main campus, and it is beautiful, and yeah, the park run goes on, but there are many events like the Pink Picnic that goes on in the summer supporting LGBTQ people, and we also have regular litter clear-ups there, so that's a really place for community. And we've also got Peel Hall as well. But yes, so it's a century of city pride is the tagline they're going for to celebrate the 100 years of Salford city status. And that's going to be a specially commissioned cultural programme which will run throughout the year, led by Walk the Plank and From the Other. And Salford City Mayor Paul Dennett said, "We proudly reflect on a city shaped by bold ideas and bold people. Salford has led with firsts." And I think it's very true. Salford is a city on the up. It's becoming a city in its own right in Greater Manchester, but not in Manchester. And I think the Salford Quays, that regeneration has really, really helped that.
They're boosting stuff there too. We've seen more sort of art installations. We've seen little pop-ups down at the quays, and we're going to see more of that. They've said that they're going to bring Salford stories to life through art, performance, and community collaboration. So I think it's going to bring some life into the city, and maybe to like some of those green spaces, and just bring a bit of the community together for the 100th anniversary.
Well, talking about green spaces, let's go a little bit down the road and go to Piccadilly Gardens. When you hear Piccadilly Gardens, what do you two think?
Well, I first think of the tram stop, the busyness of it all. It's a very busy area. You never know what you're going to find on Piccadilly Gardens. There could be a man playing a drum kit. There could be anything. But then you also need to think back to how it was 100 years ago. There was an actual garden there. That's why it's called Piccadilly Gardens.
Well, it's become a bit of an industrial zone. It's full of people. It's where all the buses go. It's where the tram stop is. There's been a lot of antisocial behaviour around there, particularly at night in recent years, which a lot of people are not happy about. However, there is a new plan to regenerate Piccadilly Gardens and bring it back, I suppose, to that sort of garden theme. So, planting trees and floral displays to put the gardens back into Piccadilly Gardens. There's also going to be an increased police and security presence with new CCTV and lighting, perhaps to tackle the antisocial behaviour that we've seen. And it's going to be a new space for family-friendly events by removing the fountains, complemented by new events and a new children's playground. So what do we think of this? Piccadilly Gardens, central hub of Manchester. Is this going to increase, I don't know, the well-being and the happiness, the quality of life of the citizens of the city?
I'd say Piccadilly Gardens might be one of the first things you see when you get into Manchester. You come off the train at Piccadilly, walk down, and you'll come into sort of the first sort of centre spot you'll find is Piccadilly Gardens. And in the daytime, it's full of life. I mean, I think I've had somebody try to pray for me there. I've given to some buskers. You know, it's all sorts of life. But I think what happens as soon as it gets dark, then it's becomes a slightly different place. Some place where if you talk to a lot of people in Manchester, they say, "Oh, I wouldn't go through Piccadilly Gardens at night." Sometimes people who say you shouldn't go through Piccadilly Gardens in the daytime, and it's not become a place to go and sit and maybe have your lunch or just have a little stop there. And if this regeneration is what if they can follow through on what they're looking to build there, I think it can really sort of put it back in the heart of the community and put it back as like a city centre point.
And Freddie, I think what you were saying about the history of Piccadilly Gardens, what it was, that's so important, isn't it?
It's great to maintain the history of Manchester. I mean, a city filled with so much history itself. And obviously Piccadilly Gardens has been transformed since the original garden. If you look up the images of it, a beautiful garden, loads of flowers. It was an amazing sight, and now you look at today, how it's completely changed.
It's just industrial now, isn't it? And so the regeneration of Piccadilly Gardens will begin next year, with Manchester City Council's aim to make Piccadilly Gardens a more welcoming place. But before 2026, there's somebody who's going to be going down your chimneys again. It'll be time for the Manchester Christmas markets, and the construction has already got underway. So they'll run from the 7th of November to the 22nd of December at Piccadilly Gardens. They carry on until the 4th of January at the new location of Albert Square, with stalls across the rest of Manchester, including on King Street, Exchange Street and Market Street, with a Christmas parade happening, and the date has been revealed for that. It's the 7th of December. Christmas markets. Well, we've got the new mug designs for this year's Christmas markets. Do you wanna dissect and critique what you see on the screen?
I think they're very cool. They've done a decent job. I think they've put in some little bits which you can see which look like the stalls you go past, and this is the bit which everyone thinks of when they think of the Manchester Christmas markets. You think of all the lined up stalls down Market Street. I'm looking forward to seeing how Albert Square turns out. They've been working on that for a long time, I think, in reopening that.
No,
so
that's
hopefully
exciting.
seeing some of the markets there, and
yeah,
it gives a nice vibe a bit to the city centre.
Yeah, I think also because the Christmas markets are something that so many people visit the city for. I mean, I might be being biased, being a resident here now, but I think, they're ranked among the top Christmas markets in Europe. And you guys have both been to the Christmas markets before, haven't you? So, Freddie, how did you find the Christmas markets last year?
Well, I went a few times just to scope it out last year. And the main sticking point for me was, as a student, you got to look at the prices, and the prices for my bank account weren't very positive. However, the atmosphere is great. You've got to love it. It's really it's a buzzing atmosphere for Manchester. But yeah, you've got to look at the prices when you've got a deposit for your cup, and then you got to. I think it was £8 maybe for a pint last year.
Yeah, or £8 pints. That doesn't sound too positive, does it? Noah, what did you think of the not Piccadilly, just the Manchester Christmas markets in general?
I would say though, the Piccadilly Gardens does feel like a completely different place when you're in there during Christmas
It
time.
does, doesn't it?
It does feel a place where you can go and sit. They put some tables out. You can go and sit. They have like usually a big tower or something which you can go see. Some live music performances. So just walking through there on a bit of a chilly night is like that's my sort of vibe. I really enjoy that sort of thing. I think it brings, like I said, a bit of a new life to the city centre.
I have to say, I cannot wait for them to come back. I absolutely loved it last year, and I think at Christmas time you just accept that you're going to be spending a lot of money anyway. But I do know what you mean, because you get sold things and then you think, oh yeah, I'm going to buy it, and then you realise how much they cost, and thinking, oh no, but I so want it now, so I'm just going to buy it anyway. My favourite thing was the Yorkshire pudding wraps.
See, I love seeing all the food, because it's not just sort of like traditional food and loads of stalls of it, because there's so many stalls. You can get food from such a variety of places and all their sort of Christmas traditions. So yeah, I feel like I've fallen for the money trap, but I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about it.
I also love mulled wine, and actually when I went last year, it started snowing halfway through I was being there in the
magical.
evening. It was magical. It was really magical. Well, yes, Christmas is coming. Don't be too scared. It is only the 22nd of October, but that about brings us to the end of the news podcast for this week. Thank you very much for joining me, you two. It's been a pleasure. We've had Noah Buckingham-Reed and Freddie Beckett, and we've had some people in the gallery. Alfie Garner has been working very hard as the tech op for this show, but also producing it too, alongside me. But you never heard that. If you have a story or talking point, you can WhatsApp us on 077 297 20708, or you can email us hello@shotradio.co.uk. We'd love to hear from you and carry on covering the major stories affecting the people of Salford and Manchester. But until then, thank you very much and goodbye.